Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the City Council of Satellite Beach, September 7th, 2016, approximately 7 p.m. Will you please join me in a moment of silence and the pledge? And the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we move to agenda item 3. We have some presentation of proclamations, and I've asked one of our council members who's a veteran, Steve Osmer, to present both of these, and we're going to start with the recognition of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitutional Week. Steve?
Thank you. Daughters of the American Revolution up here. So I'm going to read the proclamation here. It says, official proclamation of the City of Satellite Beach, Florida. Whereas our founding fathers, in order to secure the blessings of liberty for themselves and their posterity, did ordain and establish a Constitution of the United States of America. And whereas it is of great importance that all citizens fully understand the provisions and the principles contained in the Constitution in order to support it, preserve it, and defend it against encroachment. And whereas the 229th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution provides a historic opportunity for all Americans to learn about and recall achievements of our founders and to reflect on the rights and privileges of citizenship, as well as to attend to its responsibilities. And whereas the independence guaranteed to the American people by the Constitution should be celebrated September 17th through 23rd, 2016, as designated by proclamation of the President of the United States of America, according to Public Law 915. And whereas the Rufus Fairbanks Chapter, National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, encourages the citizens of Satellite Beach to read and get to know the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, therefore, Frank P. Patino, Mayor of the City of Satellite Beach, Broward County, Florida, do hereby proclaim that the week September 17th through 23rd, 2016, as Constitution Week in the City of Satellite Beach, and urge all citizens to reflect during that week on the many benefits of our federal Constitution and the privileges and responsibilities of American citizenship. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
The next one is proclamation looking for Patriots Day and a National Day of Service and Remembrance because of 9/11. I'm happy to see it. If you don't mind, I just have our first responders. If you stand up here behind me, please. And if you would indulge me a little bit here, I want to read a little statement here before we actually get to the proclamation. It kind of goes back to telling you what this is all about. On September 11th, 2001, at 8:45 a.m. on a clear Tuesday morning, an American Airlines Boeing 767 loaded with 20,000 gallons of jet fuel crashed in North Tower, World Trade Center, New York City. Then, 18 minutes after that, the first plane hit. A second Boeing 767, United Airlines 175, appeared out of the sky, turned sharply toward the World Trade Center, and sliced into the South Tower near the 60th floor. The collision caused a massive explosion that showered burning debris over surrounding buildings and streets below. America was under attack. As millions watched events unfolding in New York, American Airlines Flight 77 circled over downtown Washington, D.C., and slammed into the west side of the Pentagon military headquarters at 9:45 a.m. Jet fuel from the Boeing 757 caused a devastating inferno that led to the structural collapse of a portion of the giant concrete building. All told, 125 military personnel, civilians, were killed in the Pentagon, along with 64 people aboard the airliner. Meanwhile, a fourth California-bound plane, United Flight 93, was hijacked about 40 minutes after leaving Newark International Airport, New Jersey. Because the plane had been delayed in taking off, passengers on board had learned of the events in New York and Washington via cell phone and airphone calls to the ground. The passengers spot the 4 hijackers and are suspected to have attacked the cockpit with a fire extinguisher. The plane then flipped over and sped towards the ground at upwards 500 miles per hour, crashing into a rural field in western Pennsylvania at 10:10 a.m. All 45 people aboard were killed. At approximately 10 a.m., the south tower of the World Trade Center collapsed in a massive cloud of dust and smoke. At 10:30 a.m., the other Trade Center tower collapsed. Close to 3,000 people died in the World Trade Center and its vicinity, including a staggering 343 firefighters and paramedics, 23 New York City police officers, and 37 Port Authority police officers who were struggling to complete an evacuation of the buildings and save the office workers trapped on the higher floors. Only 6 people in the World Trade Center towers at the time of the collapse survived. Now, as a side note, as many people know, I spent my earlier years in what we call the bomb squad of explosive ordnance disposal. Since September 11, 2001, the EOD community has sustained serious loss of life and limbs. Since 9/11 to date, 131 of these brave EOD warriors have lost their lives on the battlefield, and approximately 250 EOD warriors have lost limbs, sight, and suffered traumatic brain injuries, burns, and paralysis. The number of invisible injuries are unknown at this point, and the suicide rate numbers are quickly approaching the number that was lost in combat. We remember. So with that, I'd like to read a proclamation. The city of Satellite Beach, Florida. Whereas September 11, 2016 marks the 15-year anniversary of an unprovoked and senseless act of terrorism on our homeland. Forcibly, an aircraft were hijacked on September 11, 2001 and crashed into New York City, Pennsylvania, and the Pentagon. And whereas we will always remember the innocent lives of U.S. citizens of all heritages as well as visiting citizens of foreign nations perished as a result of this horrendous attacks meant to terrorize our nation. And whereas we remember the sacrifice of our civilian and military first responders who rushed into the darkness to carry others from danger, we honor their bravery and courage for their quick and selfless actions. And whereas on this somber day, we remember all those who wish our nation harm, that we stand united as one nation under God, vigilant in our fight against terror and determined to continue as a beacon of hope and freedom for people everywhere. And whereas the indomitable spirit of the American people will not tire, will not falter, and will not fail in fighting for the safety and security of our homeland. And whereas Congress has approved and requests that we observe September 11th as Patriot Day and a national day of service and remembrance. Now, therefore, Frank P. Catino, Mayor of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim September 11th, 2016 as Patriot Day and a national day of service and remembrance. I encourage our community to join in honoring and remembering the victims of September 11, 2001, and to pay tribute to the many heroes who protect and defend our great nation, and to the police and firefighters who keep our community safe.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Very well done. Appreciate it. At this time, we'll move on to agenda item 4, citizens' comments. And this is for non-agenda items. The floor is open. For non-agenda items. Hearing none, close citizens' comments and move on to city council comments.
I have none.
Had an opportunity with the mayor and with Dominic to participate in the softball game between Indian Harbor Beach and Satellite Beach on Saturday. What was the final score?
15-4.
There we go. But who's counting, right? But we had a really good time. There's a lot of camaraderie between the two cities, and on a personal note, I didn't really contribute much to the game other than a few outs, but our winning pitcher was Dominic Montanaro, I think. But it was a lot of fun. And Chief, thanks for including the council in this. We really had a good time. Really appreciate it. That's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Dominic.
I just want to thank you for the invitation, for allowing us to come and play. I think the interaction that we have with Indian Harbor Beach now is something that we've never had before as a city, and I think working together to accomplish different things that our communities need. This was just one example of how we got together and enjoyed each other's company, and we're looking forward to doing other things with Indian Harbor. And I think it's great that we're working in that direction. So thank you for inviting us. And Darren Frost also pitched a little too. I wasn't the only pitcher. So the other thing I wanted to mention was I know we have the coastal cleanup that's in our agenda packet, but for those of you who aren't aware, Ethan Shoda and his mom, Kathy, Ethan does a Keep Brevard Beautiful cleanup at Pelican Beach Park every month, the second Saturday of every month, and he gets anywhere from 35 to 50 people to that cleanup. So I want to remind you, it is this Saturday coming up, and Courtney, if we could possibly maybe include that in our city's website and on our Beachcasters going forward, that would at least make it easier for Ethan and Kathy to get the message out there to our residents, because they do a great job.
You want it on Facebook too?
Sure.
And that's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I thought the camaraderie between the two cities were great. It was a lot of fun out there on Saturday, and Chief, thank you for making sure that happened, and hopefully we can continue working with Harbor. It was great. Kirk Smith, I mean, honor, he appointed me to the Indian River Citizens Coalition, which our first meeting is down in Vero Beach on Wednesday, the 21st. So as many of you know, I'm very passionate about the lagoon, and it's an honor to be on that committee. And that's all I have. Any further comments? Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 6, the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, we do have a Florida coastal cleanup, and that will be September 17th at the Pelican Beach Park from 8 to noon. All the trash bags and gloves will be provided for that. But they are asking you to bring your own drinking water. That's being sponsored by the Ocean Conservancy and Keep Brevard Beautiful. The Founders Day Parade and Marketplace will be held on November 5th, so save that date. It'll be starting from 9 to 3. And then also save the date for December 3rd for the Ocean Reef Beach Festival. That will be held at Pelican Beach Park as usual. The State Road A1A resurfacing project construction has begun in the 192 area, and staff is expecting for that project to reach our city in February, March 2017. The project managers have created a website to allow residents to check the schedule, and I think Suzanne sent me a good email that describes that you have a couple steps to get there, so we are going to put that on Facebook so residents can figure out how to navigate that site. We did get a nice donation again from John Baker. The $1,000 has been donated to the police department and $1,000 has been donated to the fire department. He had indicated that his deep appreciation to both the fire and police department for the services that him and his family has received over the years, and he wanted to show his appreciation. And then he went on to tell me about the potholes on Jackson, so we're going to get those fixed. And I did receive a thank you card for the A shift at the fire department, complimenting the professionalism and care that showed to a resident. Another compliment for Officer Martinez on his respectfulness and compassion during a traffic stop. Officer Holland, Corporal Owens, and Officer McCran received a compliment on their professionalism and compassion to a young man and his father. And then Commander Abernathy sent another description of a picture, actually, of Nick Walsh and Barry Pettingill helping a resident mow his grass after he was unable to finish it after an emergency call, which was kind of cool. I also received a thank you letter in your packet from the Brevard Oyster Restoration at the Brevard Zoo regarding our donation for their oyster mat making workshops, which have continued. And I also received a letter from Dave and Kathy Allison expressing their appreciation for the partnership on Shell Street. Thank you, Dave. And that's all for me. I don't have any action items today.
Great, thank you. Questions for the city manager? No. Courtney, thank you very much, and to police and fire and all departments, thank you for the great job. We continue to get a lot of compliments and letters sent to us. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for everything. Appreciate that. At this time, with council's permission, I'd like to switch the agenda around here a little bit and move to agenda item 10.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Discuss, take action on Montecito Phase 2C Development Site Plan. Okay?
Okay. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. On June 20th, 2016, the Planning and Zoning Advisory Board approved the Phase 2C preliminary plat. Subsequent to that, on July 6th, City Council also approved that preliminary plat. The next step in that process is the preliminary development plan, which is what we're here to look at tonight. We also have the engineer record, Dave Lavender, with Allen Engineering, and Chip Jones representing the development to field any questions you might have. The site plan consists of approximately 17 acres, more or less, and that's part of a 310-acre previously approved master plan. The actual parcel, which is about 27, 28 acres, is, I'm sorry, I have the 17 acres. It's about 25 townhomes comprised of 150 residential units. And on August 15, 2016, Planning and Zoning had reviewed the preliminary development plan and had recommended for approval. Thank you.
I just wanted to comment. We have received a number of emails from residents within the Montecito subdivision regarding concerns about some access points. If you look at your preliminary plat that you had approved earlier, there's an access point for this development at the roundabout on Shearwater, and then another one on South Patrick Drive. The previous plan, when this was all one development, had another access that was going to the area that's just east of this property, which is now the old base housing. Unfortunately, over the years, these properties, after the recession, have split into different owners over the years, and there's been some lawsuits and things like that between the CDD and adjacent property owners. And the residents in some of the residents in the Montecito area are concerned that this new last phase of townhomes is going to add so much traffic to the roundabout, and they're not going to have enough access points. From an engineering perspective, we do feel that there is enough safe accesses in this community. However, we don't have the legal authority to require a third access. The adjacent property to the west is a private owner. It's in private ownership. It's separate ownership from this property. And we can't force them to connect unless there's a safety issue. The Shearwater Parkway is a private road. A lot of people might think that is a public road. It's actually owned by Hunt Development. The CDD, I mean, not the CDD, but the, I guess it is the CDD. It took them about 6 months to get a construction entrance from this company. So we can't force them to require another private entity to grant them access. So we don't have a code requirement for an access point. We don't have legal authority to demand an access point, although I can understand their concerns. We did get some advice from our engineering firm, the city's engineering firm, that at the final plat stage, if we had a concern with safety, that we could put a request in the final plat that would encumber the CDD to connect at a later date to the other property. So we could do that, and that would, satisfy any emergency access concerns. But we're reluctant to do that at the preliminary plat stage. We just don't know what's going in on the west side, and we don't know if there's going to be a safety issue at this point. So I wanted to make that clear, that the city really we don't have a lot of options on our side, because we're not in a position to demand two private entities to come up with an access point when we don't have a code requirement to do so.
Can I ask a question? When you say the west side, do you mean the east
I mean
side?
the east side, I'm
Yes.
sorry. East
Okay,
side.
I just wanted to clarify that.
So on this particular plat here, we also show a black line. They're going to cut that access off, or that's one of the plans to...
Yes, the CDD has a plan to literally construct a wall or some type of barrier along that area. And I think that was largely to block the view of the homes that are next to that area. Do you want to come up and explain that?
I can address that.
I think that would be
Sir,
better.
if you would
did that.
address, come to the mic, state your name and...
My name is Chip Jones. I'm with Lerner Real Estate Advisors on behalf of Montecito CDD Holdings. Do you need an address?
No, that's fine.
Actually, the property to the east, which is currently owned by SBP, Satellite Beach Partners, Sam Carabetta is the owner for that property, is also within the CDD boundaries. This property went through a default after the last downturn. When we got involved, we worked with we actually represent and work on behalf of the trustee and the bondholders. So we're not for-profit developers. We actually work on their behalf with the goal of getting a recovery. And the recovery is to build lots to sell to a builder, and the builder sells townhomes. There was a default on several parties, one of them being Satellite Beach Partners, as well as the townhome parcel. So there was a tri-party agreement that was executed on behalf by the CDD, by the SPE, which is Montecito CDD Holdings, as well as Satellite Beach Partners. That tri-party agreement with regards to this access point stated that if they wanted to access to the west, that they couldn't deny access to the east. So it's really at the option of the eastern property, which is the Satellite Beach Partners property. If they do not want the access to be open, then it doesn't flow either way. If they do want it to open, it will flow all the way to A1A. And that's the way that particular agreement was structured and agreed to by all parties.
Thank you very much. Question, that was, if I'm not mistaken, looking at the plot, that's the way it originally was, correct? That the east would flow to the west on the plats we had years ago, or preliminaries?
Right, there was a road connecting Montecito Phase C and then the Satellite Beach Partners section.
Right.
In the middle. And that is proposed by both parties right now not to have. So, you know, unless there's a safety problem, that kind of, you know, puts us in a difficult position.
But the access for the C phase and the other ones with the access roads, it's the same as it was back when it was originally
That's
given to us?
Yes.
Correct? So if we block that, all you're doing is eliminating whatever traffic would occur on that eastern piece of property, correct?
Yeah, you're eliminating the possibility for the Montecito Phase C people to get out to A1A, but you're also eliminating all of the traffic from the Satellite Beach Partners site from accessing South Patrick Drive through the Montecito development. And that's, you know, considering the development proposals that I'm seeing for the Satellite Beach Partners, just a lot, I'm not real sure Montecito really wants that access now.
Okay.
You know, if you look at the original development there, the highest intensity use is in that eastern portion. So by them not granting access into Montecito Phase C, we're cutting off a lot of traffic that could ultimately go through that neighborhood by doing what's being proposed.
That's why I think in the final plat, we'll have a better idea of what's going to be developed at the Satellite Beach Partners phase. So at the final plat, that might be an opportunity to reevaluate that access, but I have a feeling that the Montecito Phase C group will not want that access after they see that development.
They meet all codes, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council before we open it up for comment?
And I think if I'm not mistaken, and I read it, it's already gone through our police and fire for their opinions.
Our police, fire, and our city engineer have approved the plan, and you've already approved the preliminary plat. So this is kind of an after the fact. In most instances, we would take the development plan at the same time as the preliminary plat. It just fell out differently here. So it's kind of hard to go back on a preliminary plat. We can, however, look at a final plat instance. But again, like I said, I think once we get to that phase, we'll have more information on the Satellite Beach Partners site, and I do think that many people will change their minds about any cross-access.
And I guess the point I was trying to make, though, is unless there's a real safety issue, then we don't have any jurisdiction to say anything. If there was a safety issue in there, then we'd have more avenues to pursue that. But since we've already had police, fire, and engineer already look at it, and they all said it's okay as is, then the safety part of it is eliminated.
Yeah, and I think it's important to realize that, as a planner, we all want grid-style developments. It's the best for any access and traffic flow and public safety accesses, but a lot of developers develop these windy roads with the cul-de-sacs because they want the privacy, and that's what's happened here. So when we look at it from an access standpoint, it's not the best, but it does meet our requirements. Considering the private road aspects as well as the adjacent different property owner, it makes requirements of connection impossible.
Thank you. Questions before I open up for public comment?
Oh, good.
Okay. At this time, I'll open up public comment for agenda item 10. The floor is open. Floor is open for agenda item 10. Yes, sir. Please come forward and state your name. Floor is new.
I'm Gary Basham. I live in Montecito at 166 Redondo Drive. And the information that I have, I've made written comments. You should have copies of those comments there. My concern is that the roundabout that already exists off of Shearwater into Montecito was not designed for tractor trailers. And it was probably not even designed for anything over 5 tons. Getting people in and out of their personal effects when delivery is always a problem. Plus, there's going to be 155 dwelling units in those 25 buildings that come out. Everybody's got 2 cars. And during evacuation time, you're going to have 600 vehicles trying to go through there, plus maybe 155 contractors trying to come in to put in the storm shutters on the windows for the evacuation. There needs to be some sort of access, if it's only for tractor trailers, delivery of home goods, and such times as evacuation. You go to your fire department. My rumor has it that the fire department said, yeah, it meets the code, but it's really tight. Now, going into Montecito through the roundabout, you would not want a hook and ladder vehicle coming in there. The best you could do is an engine or a pumper. Otherwise, it's not going to make it real fast. So I would like to have some sort of access in addition from some location that could let the pressure off for evacuations, for intermittent use of vehicles moving in. And there's several opportunities to be able to do that. I'm not sure who has given you from Montecito saying that they want to cut that off. But another 155 units will produce 210 vehicles, because there would be 2-car units. Living in there now, everybody has 2 cars. They're parking in the off-street parking, they're parking on the street as well. That's all.
Thank you very much. John, yeah. On the roads, because I know you and I have talked about their public roads privately maintained, correct?
Yes.
And they do meet city code, if I'm not mistaken, from the width and so forth?
Yeah, I would go one step further. I physically went out and measured the roads there and found it to be one of the widest roads in our city. We're all familiar with Roosevelt that meets all the newest standards, and it's actually wider than Roosevelt. The issue is with the roundabout, and that obviously needs to be corrected. I just don't believe that that is incumbent upon the developer of Phase 2C to be addressing that.
There's a curb problem with the roundabout. It was developed with an L curve, correct? Yeah.
Just a
L
high curve.
And a Miami curve would be a much kinder turning, it would be a more relaxed turn for some of the trucks that have to move through there. So we understand that issue with Montecito, and staff fully sympathizes with them. But that is the issue, is we can't force the developer for a next phase to correct a problem that was completed by a previous developer. So if it's a CDD problem, then the CDD needs to fix that. I don't think we can require a developer to do that for the next phase of the project. But we do agree that curbing on there is causing them a problem, and we believe that would help quite a bit in fixing it. With regard to the hurricane issue, we think this size of development with 2 entrance points is very common throughout the beachside and other areas. So if we had an emergency evacuation that had to be done really fast in one area, yes, we could see a bottleneck, but most hurricane evacuations here happen over days and happen over hours in time. So we just don't see that as a problem. If we do have a problem with our code, then we need to change our code, but we can't require, again, after the developer works to meet the code, to go back and make them do it later because we decided today that the code was wrong. We need to change the code if the code's wrong.
Thank you. And parking spots here, so forth, also parking meets all the codes also?
Yes, they, in fact, they had to do a revised preliminary plat, as you know, recently, and one of the revisions that was made was we took that opportunity to add some additional off-street parking. I think Mr. Basham makes reference to parking area 17. The issue there is if you look at the preliminary plat, you'll see where it shows one parallel parking location on that reserved area out in the right-of-way. What they've done to try to address that and add some additional off-street parking is to put in 4 90-degree parkings in that same area. It's not really something we need to address today. That's something that we will be addressing on final plat, simply to make sure that what is there is reflected correctly on the final plat. A preliminary plat is an unrecorded document that is used as a roadmap to get you to that final plat. So that will be addressed at that point. But they have increased the off-street parking.
Thank you. Public comment is still open for this agenda item. Hearing no further public comment on agenda item 10, bring it back to council.
Make a motion to approve the Montecito Phase 2C preliminary development plan.
Second?
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Osmer. Courtney, when it comes to the final, can we make sure we discuss that, at least have the ability to discuss?
And when we get that information, we'll send it to the CDD. The development plan information for the development that's to the east, and we'll make sure that you all have that, so you can speak for that. But I think by the time we get to the final plat, we should know more about that adjacent development, which would guide any decisions for an emergency access.
But at least maybe look at that emergency access from there if we can.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Hearing none. Lenore?
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. 4-0. The staff, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for the public input. Moving on, if the council would mind, let's go to agenda item 9 next.
Okay.
Thank you. Agenda item 9, discuss, take action on ordinance 1125. Jim?
Ordinance number 1125, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, vacating the north half of that certain alley right-of-way immediately south of Cinnamon Drive and located between lots 117 and 118, Block 1, plat of Michigan Beach, AKA 125 and 135 Cinnamon Drive, providing findings, providing for severability, providing an effective date. It's the first reading of ordinance number 1125.
Thank you. John?
Yes. On behalf of the two residents adjacent to that right-of-way at 125 and 135 Cinnamon, they have requested that their portion of that right-of-way be vacated. Back in 1988, by Resolution 498, the southerly half of that alleyway, which abuts Cassia, essentially what it does, it runs behind the old Bunkies, and it connected up Cassia with Cinnamon. So with this south side vacated, here we are 15-plus years later, and the residents to the north, which are, they are the new owners and have been there for about 15 years. The prior owners chose not to vacate their portion. These residents wish theirs to be vacated. This has been reviewed by all the utility providers, including Public Works and city attorney and staff, and we don't really see any public purpose to that remaining alleyway. The other thing that it does is 125 Cinnamon is approximately 5 feet off of the western side yard property line. So by vacating this 30-foot alley, 15 would go to 125 and 15 feet would go to 135. Thereby, it would bring 125 Cinnamon into conformance with its side yard setbacks.
Thank you very much. Question from council.
I talked with John, and, you know, if you look at the Exhibit 1A1 map that we have in our packet, it shows that alley behind every one of the businesses that abut A1A from Elwood Drive south to Cassia. And I asked John if any of those had been vacated in the past, and you didn't seem to find anything in any of the records.
No.
I'm wondering if when we do this, it would be advantageous to look at all of these and do all of them. Because, I mean, at some point in time, all of these other places are going to come and ask us to do the same thing. And if this is something that is already being utilized in people's side yards, we probably need to address it.
Right. I think so, and I think that's another one we could do. We could we can vote on this, whether it passes, and then we can continue and look at the rest of those and that.
I might add that every one of those alleyways are unique in the sense that there may be utilities there, and so each one requires its own survey. Each one has to be reviewed by the utility providers, and in some cases they may not entirely vacate that, or they will ask for some kind of easement to carry back if they were to agree to vacate. So they are all standalone in that sense. They need to be looked at individually.
Thank you very much.
Okay. While we're on this, would this be something that we are, as a city, going to look at doing, or we're going to require the people to have to make that request? The people would have to request it?
That's currently what initiated this one here. It's entirely up to council how they wish to move forward with that.
Okay. I'm not looking to burden you with extra work.
We can send a notice to the property owners and let them know that we vacated this one, and that option's available to them if they wanted to seek it. Let them know it might not be approved, but if you wanted us to look at that and that's something you wanted us to do, let us know and apply. That's something we can do.
I'm betting some of them don't even know that alley
Yeah.
exists.
That's kind of my point. At this point, after this number of years, that, I think, I don't want to give the homeowner a problem 3 years down the road or 4 years down the road when it's something that we really don't need, that easement. We can help them for the future, really. So if it's not too much trouble, how about letters to the homeowners and see what responses we get?
Okay.
Any more questions?
No. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 1125 on first reading.
Second. I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Vice Mayor Breimer. At this time, open up public comment on agenda item 9. Floor is open. Hearing no public comment, back to council. Any further council comments? Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Staff, thank you very much. Okay. We'll come back to the agenda packet, move on to agenda item 7, discuss take action on City Hall Pond and stormwater treatment area. Courtney.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, the city has been trying to do more lagoon water quality projects and kind of become the example of how to, maintain your lawns, particularly if you're next to a waterway or a pond. In this instance, what we would like to do is make those improvements to the City Hall pond. However, we'd like to partner with the Marine Resources Council to do that and basically restore the vegetation buffer along the shoreline of the City Hall stormwater treatment pond. This proposal would include basically not only just restoring the pond, but also creating a community event and volunteer opportunity for the community. At this point, it looks like we're looking at a December 10th date if council approves this proposal for that volunteer event. In this instance, the Marine Resources Council would manage pretty much the entire project. They would manage the plant material acquisition, site preparation, and then all of the volunteers and all of the plantings. So this total cost, we would ask for a budget of $12,000. This will be coming from the Stormwater Utility Fund, and we did include some letters of support from Keep of Our Beautiful, Florida Fish and Wildlife, and Surfrider Foundation. So we are asking for your approval tonight for the proposal as well as the budget of $12,000.
Thank you very much. Questions from council?
I think just from the point that this kind of goes like with the pepper tree invasive thing, we really shouldn't go out and start mandating all of our citizens to do it if we don't clean up our own backyard, so to speak. So I kind of look at it in that way. I mean, if we're going to go around and we want to encourage the citizens to, reduce that and change their practices with their lawns, you're right, we probably should set the example as, we should clean up our backyard first and then encourage the residents to do the same. I don't think it's really fair to do it the other way around, because I would be the first person I would do as a citizen say, well, if you want me to do it, look at your area that you have. And I said it kind of goes back to the same thing as we did with the invasive species and the pepper trees. It was only right for us to clean up our backyard first before we put anything towards the residents. So I think this is a good idea.
Great. Thank you.
I think we're looking at partnering with great, organizations that are out there, and the Keep of Our Beautiful, Florida Fish and Wildlife, Surf Riders, and Marine Resource Council. I think it's a good opportunity for us to, once again, network with other people. So I'll make a motion to approve the partnership proposal with the Marine Resource Council to restore the vegetative buffer along the shoreline of City Hall Stormwater Treatment Pond with a budget of $12,000.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Osmer. Further discussion from council? Hearing none at this time, open up agenda item 7 for public comment. The floor is now open. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Further comment? Lenore?
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Staff, thank you. Courtney, thank you for working with them. Appreciate it very much. Moving on to agenda item 8, discuss take action on agreement with Rochelle Rowendale for the review of the city code on ordinance to incorporate sustainability practices. Courtney.
Thank you, Mayor. In your previous meetings, both the Sustainability Board and Council have provided direction to staff to review portions of the city code, basically to look to improve efforts in sustainability, both from the development side as well as city operations. Staff has discussed this project with one of our local urban planning experts, Mrs. Lawendale. She also lives in the city of Satellite Beach, so she's invested in the community as well as, and I've previously done many projects with her, particularly code rewrites, and she's definitely very good at it. We believe that she would be in a very good position to review our codes. She's familiar with the city enough, but she's also separated enough from the code to be able to view it with some fresh eyes and give us a report on what could be changed and what we could focus on and maybe prioritize that. And so we are asking her to do that and provide a detailed report to you within 90 days, and we are proposing this to her to be reimbursed for that by $8,000. The contract does have a Part B to be negotiated. However, we had to leave that open because depending on how big the report is, we may have to bid out the second portion of the project, and or it may be small enough to where we can do it within city staff time.
Courtney, question? She's going to look at everything,
The entire code.
sustainability about building houses up on stilts, solar energy.
Lawn maintenance, yeah, everything.
Great. Questions from the council?
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of agreement with Rochelle Wandels for $8,000 for a review of the city code ordinances to incorporate sustainability practices.
Second.
Have a motion by Vice Mayor Brimer, second by Councilman Osmer. Further discussion from council?
I think Courtney's right. The lady does really good work and has for years in a number of capacities. I think this would be a good fit for starting out.
Great, thank you. Public comment portion on agenda item 8 is now open. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Any further discussion? When will she start, Courtney? Is this something that's
Right away.
Okay. And timeline 90 days?
Yeah, we had contemplated putting this in the next year's budget. However, we had the funds available in this year's budget, and without having to do a budget amendment. But also, we wanted to really get started on it. We have a lot of opportunities, within the city with the Sustainability Board and all their projects, and some of the comments I get are, what does the city do for that? And how does the city do that? And, how does the city require new construction for lawns? Things like that. And so it's a good point. I mean, if we're going to move forward in a sustainable way, we need to also be sustainable and not in the way we require developers to develop, as well as how we operate. So I wanted to get started on it pretty fast, and she understands that.
Great, thank you. Further discussion? Going on?
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you very much, staff. Thank you. Is everybody good with continuing? Anybody need a break? Thank you. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 11, discuss, take action on the results of a request for bid for lease purchase of a fire truck.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. So this item actually first came before you in terms of discussion on the fire truck itself, and I'll get back to that, but we did at the previous council meeting discuss a letter of intent to hold an existing vehicle that's on the shelf so we don't have to wait for the build-out time. And I'll get to how that ties together in a moment. But essentially what you're looking at with this item is the result of a request for bids process for the financing to lease purchase a fire truck. You can see some of the details in the agenda item. Essentially, we started this process in August. We issued the request for bids, and what we asked for were some pricing for both 5- and 10-year financing plans for a cost of a fire truck, a fire pumper truck, not to exceed $410,000. We received responses from 5 banks, and those banks were Community Leasing Partners, U.S. Bank Corp., Municipal Leasing Consultants, SunTrust Equipment Finance, Leasing Corp., and TD Equipment Finance. Of those 5, when the evaluation committee met to review those responses, we actually narrowed down the responses to our 3 highest, best-ranked respondents, and those were scored based on lowest overall price, as well as conditions that they had attached to the bid itself. Those 3, when we narrowed it down, were Municipal Leasing Consultants, TD Equipment Finance, and U.S. Bank Corp., and we asked them actually to do basically finalist work, and they had to provide narrowed down specifications for a 5-year payment plan for a lease purchase with, best and final offer in terms of their interest rate, and we wanted to make those payments in advance versus in arrears to save on the interest as much as we could. End result is, you can see in your packet that U.S. Bank Corp. did come in with the highest score. There were 92 out of 100. TD Equipment Finance was second, and Municipal Leasing Consultants was third. The end result, the U.S. Bank Corp. proposal is a 5-year lease purchase with an interest rate of 1.599%. There are no fees that will be charged on the transaction for closing or any of the processing of the transaction. And the overall cost of interest for the life of the loan is $13,110 and some change, which was the lowest of all that we looked at. So we're real pleased with the results of that. The other thing I would say is that this it pretty closely matches with our estimate that we put in our budget for fiscal year 16-17. We estimated about $80,000 a year for the 5 years worth of payments. Based on the initial estimate, that's coming in around $84,000, but that's going to fluctuate a little based on the actual purchase price of the vehicle and timing on the actual loan, et cetera. All that being said, we're asking tonight for your approval to award the RFB for lease purchase to U.S. Bancorp, and we're also asking for your authorization for the city manager to move forward to execute not only the agreements for that, but for the actual purchase of the fire truck. So based on your direction last meeting, we did reserve that fire truck with Ferrara, and the details of the vehicle are in this packet here. You can see there are multiple warranties on different components of the vehicle. Fire chief is here if you have questions about that. But essentially what we'd like to do to make sure we have the necessary pumping capacity in the city, particularly when the fire truck from the county leaves, which is a component of this, we would like to be able to move forward with just going ahead and purchasing it. We've reserved it. They're holding it for us. And we do not have to wait the 7+ months that it would take to actually get one built for us. And with that, those are our requests, that you authorize the city manager to execute those agreements to purchase the vehicle, authorize us to do the lease purchase. And also, as a side note, because of the great rates we've encountered with the financing at this point in time, we have an existing lease that's out there for the previous pumper truck. We will actually be looking at refinancing potentially with, this company or one of the others. So we'll be coming back to you with an update on that as well.
Thank you. Question, I guess, more for Chief on this one, please. Does this truck do everything you need it to do?
This apparatus is very similar to the one that we purchased 2 years ago, a little bit smaller footprint, if you will, but yes, it meets everything that we require.
And the pumping capacities makes us insurance-wise?
Yes, our ISO Class 3 requirement, we're required to have 2,500 gallon per minute pumping capacity, and that has to be conducted with 2, what I'll call full-rated trucks. Our squad truck, people look at it and think that it's a fire truck, but it really isn't a fire truck. So, but this apparatus will keep us in compliance for our ISO rating.
Thank you. Questions from council?
Chief, the question I have is what additional materials will you have to buy for this truck? Just the actual cost of the things that to get it street ready?
Actually, probably nothing, to be quite frank with you. And if we do, we'll just take out our regular operating budget, because, mind you, we took all that fire equipment off of the previous trucks and it's in storage. So as soon as this apparatus comes in, all of our equipment's there ready to mount.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Just for clarifications, you and I had a conversation about the turning radius of this truck. It's actually smaller than what we have now, so navigating some of the streets that we had issues with in the past.
That's a great point to bring up, and the turning radius on this particular apparatus will be better than what we already have, and what we have is really good right now. So
right.
it'll look just like our truck, but it's just a little bit shorter and a little bit smaller, and it's got a great turning radius.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Chief?
I'd like to make a motion to award the request for bid number 15-1607 for financing of a lease purchase of a fire pumper truck to U.S. Bancorp Government Leasing and Financing, Inc., and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary agreements to secure the financing and purchase of the vehicle from Ferrara Fire Apparatus.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Osmer. At this time, open up agenda item 11 for public comment. The floor is open. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Courtney, one thing I like that you said is at 1.59, that's pretty much not money's never free, but pretty darn good interest rate. So that other truck and another one, I would love to see it. I don't even know if we could bundle it, but
Yeah, we're going to start working on that. Once we saw these interest rates, we might want to just try to pull them in together. So you might see this coming back if we could get it done in one. We just don't want to delay the purchase of this truck specifically, so we might have to come back at a later date with that.
And I like the idea of paying it off as fast as you
Yeah.
can. Great job. Thank you. Further discussion from council? Nope. Lenore?
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, staff, very much. Moving on to agenda item 12, fiscal year 2016-17 budget. At this time, open up a public hearing on the proposed financial year 2016-17 budget, along with Part B, ordinance number 1126 and ordinance number 1127. Jim?
Ordinance number 1126, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, adopting the final levying of ad valorem taxes by establishing an operating millage rate of 8.1518 mils for fiscal year 2016-2017, providing an effective date. That's the first reading of ordinance number 1126. Ordinance number 1127, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, adopting fiscal year 2016-27 budget, providing an effective date. That's the first reading of ordinance number 1127.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the budget that we have in budget ordinances. The adopted budget has not changed since the proposed budget. We have changed some of the text of the budget. However, we're still on target for of what we presented in the proposed budget. This includes a reduction in the millage rate from 8.29 to 8.1518 mils, and the budget is balanced with total revenues and expenditures of $16,682,134. And we did get in the last budget the GFOA award again. We are looking at getting a new one this coming year. We did a lot of changes to the budget to address some of the comments that we received from the rating committee for that award. So you see a lot of changes in the budget for that. But otherwise, we have basically the budget that we have proposed to you is what we're proposing to adopt.
Thank you. Questions from council?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 1126, adopting an operating and millage rate of 8.1518 mils for the 2016-2017, and ordinance number 1127, adopting the FY.
No, separate.
We're going to do them separate? Okay. All right, my first motion would be approve ordinance 1126, setting the millage rate at 8.1518 on first reading.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Vice Mayor Breimer. Before I open up for public comment, further comment from council?
No.
Hearing none. At this time, open up public comment. Hearing none. Back to council. Further comment from council? Lenore?
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Now move on to ordinance number 1127.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 1127, adopting the FY 2016-2017 annual budget on first reading.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Vice Mayor Breimer. This time, any further comment from council? Hearing none, open up. Ordinance number 1127 for public comment. Floor is open. Hearing none, bring it back to council.
I just want to say that, once again, this was a great budget that, you presented to us, and thank you, staff, for doing an excellent job. It's easy to understand. I mean, residents shouldn't have any problem looking at it and understanding it, and I hope we get our award again this year. Thank you.
Staff, you did a great job. Thank you very much. I know you worked hard on it, and thank you for everything you do on it. Yes, thank you. Any further comment from council? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 13, presentation of fiscal year 2015-16 third quarter budget report.
Thank you, Mayor. Our comptroller, Jennifer, is going to present the third quarter budget report. As you recall, this is how we're able to track our revenues, make sure our revenues are coming in. We don't have to make sure that we don't have to do any budget amendments to ensure that we're on track, make sure our expenditures are going correctly, and it keeps all of us in line, basically. So we'll let Jennifer present that.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Hello. Just waiting for the computer to come up on the screen.
It says it has no signal.
Is it not connected?
The accounting and the IT department don't talk very often.
Let me just make sure my thing works. It works. All right, good evening, council. Good evening, mayor. Good evening, vice mayor and council members. Just going to quickly go over the third quarter budget report. This is the final budget report of the fiscal year 2015-2016. The next time you'll hear about 15-16 is after we, after the end of the year, at the end of the first quarter of the next year. So just going to go over some general fund highlights. General fund revenues are currently, this is all at the third quarter, which ends on June 30th. And this is at $8,570,000 and $300. It's 80%. Ad valorem collected is at 99%. And that's at $5,855,453. Other taxes are at $622,957. It's at 54% collected. And sorry to back up just a minute here. At the third quarter, we should be at about 75%. And we're doing pretty good as far as revenues go. We're at 80%. And this is just a little breakdown for each of the major sections of revenues. Sorry about that. So in the franchise and permit fees, that's $483,530. It's 56%. Intergovernmental, $734,393 at 79%. And the charges for services at $578,736 is at 89%. That's a little bit higher than the 75% mark because of facility rentals are a little bit higher this than what was budgeted. Fines and forfeitures are $31,553, which is at 71%. Miscellaneous revenues were pretty much completely collected on that. It's $30,960. And other revenue sources mainly consists of transfers, is at $202,717. So only at 19% right now. There are a few transfers that we do at the end of the year, and that's why that number is so low. We do the stormwater utility transfer. That is for all the labor and related operating and maintenance, basically, for the stormwater fund that we reimburse to the general fund, and then also excess CRA funds that will be moved at the end of the year. And this is just kind of so you can have a visual of how budget is to actual. And you can see that we're still a little bit under budget, but we're, like I said, 3 quarters through the year, and we're not doing real bad. And just to point out that the green is the budget and blue is actual. For general fund expenditures, we're at 72%, and that's $7,653,353. Legislative at 64%, at $8,466. City clerk's office at 69%, $101,678. Support services department is at 74%, $540,671. General government services 87%, it's $1,100,922. This was mainly due to the employee medicals, which is a little higher than what we budgeted, but we have actually accounted for that in the next budget year. Police department is 68%. It's $1,921,033. Fire department's at 72%, $1,352,511. Building and zoning, 70%, $198,167. Public Works Department's at 72%, $983,138. Recreation Department's at 68%, $543,980. And then transfers are at 83% at $902,785. And this is, we just have one more transfer to do for that line item, for the capital assets fund. Currently at 6/30/16, the revenues over expenditures, which would be additions to reserves, is $916,947, and I think by the time we get to the end of the year, we're going to be pretty close to what we budgeted. And again, with general fund highlights with the expenditures, this is the same, as you can see the comparison between budget to actual, green being budget, blue being actual. And you can see with expenditures, we are also under budget. I'll just go over the special funds. Each of these funds are used for specific purposes, and it can only, all the money collected can only be spent on specific items. For the Community Services Fund, this is made up of multiple mini funds, but the revenues is at $252,007. This is 227% over budget, because as we had recently learned, probably 3 or 4 meetings ago, we had significant donation for both the police department and the fire department of $100,000 each. So that caused that to be severely over budget. Expenditures are 83%. It's $62,932. The major contributor to that being over 75% is the tree removal incentive that we approved during the year and the contribution to the Surfside Playground. So that's just more, it was in June that we received that money. Stormwater Utility Fund, we're at 79%, $498,082. The bulk of that is the stormwater utility fee, which we charge $104 per ERU per year. An ERU is an equivalent residential unit, so that's just basically per house in general. Expenditures are at 36%, it's $229,893. So if this was the end of the year, we would be returning $268,189, but I think we're going to be pretty close to budget on it as well. Law Enforcement Trust Fund, we don't usually have a lot of activity in that. That's why it's so low. Revenue is $83, expenditures $38. And that's very hit or miss. You don't know what's going to happen throughout every year in that fund. Community Redevelopment Trust Fund, also known as CRA. The revenues for that are $1,381,150. That's 58% collected, and expenditures are at 55% collected at $1,306,617. In general, the revenue from 65% of the revenues from the general fund and 35% of the revenues from the county. For Capital Assets Fund, revenues and expenditures are equal at this time, 86%, $2,335,417. And just for your reference, the debt that we issued for the $2.5 million note for the road improvements is accounted for, the reserves are accounted for separately from the rest of the reserves. So we always know what we have left out of that $2.5 million. And the Health Insurance Fund is an internal service fund. This fund is actually funded by the general fund, and then we pay Cigna basically for health insurance. The revenues are at 73% collected, 878,011. Expenditures are 69% spent, 703,242. And just a note on the addition to reserves, that 123,926 is required by Cigna to be held in reserves in case we do decide to stop the insurance and go to a different plan. It's for runoff. So just a quick summary of kind of what's happened throughout the year. We're pretty much on target to be on budget for revenues and expenditures. We did have our big donations this year, $100,000 for each for police and fire. And we're also almost have completed the process of switching to TD Bank, and that's going to save us some money on fees, on bank fees. Also looking ahead, we're looking to start field work soon, and probably be doing that in December. And we'll have the audit presentation probably in February or March. I'm being conservative there. It could be January, but I don't want to promise anything. I also want to let you know the city staff is working with, and you probably already know this, City of Cocoa Beach, and the City of Rockledge to form a partnership for a health clinic. We're going to have 2 facilities, one in Satellite and one in Cocoa. And I think we're looking at that starting around January 1st. Major upcoming projects include skate park renovations, which we've kind of been in the process with that, civic center renovations, and the DeSoto Park stormwater project, which we have received grant funding for. And as always, City Council continues to maintain best budgeting practices and will continue to improve the financial condition of the city. Questions?
Thank you very much. Questions from council? No. Okay, questions? Thank you very much. At this time, open up for public comment on this agenda item. The floor is open. Please.
Gabe Fine, citizen. What a great job. Just an excellent job. We appreciate it, city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe, very much. Public comment still open? Hearing none, bring it back to council. Any further council? Lenore? We have motion, please. I'm sorry.
It's just information.
It's just a report. Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 14, proposed agenda items for our regular council meeting on September 21st. Please take a look on it. If you need anything added to it, please see Courtney.
Yes, I will not be at the September 21st meeting, Mr. Mayor. I just want to let you know now for the record. I'll be out of town at Florida League of Cities.
Okay. Thank you. Everybody good with proposed? Okay. Moving on to agenda item 15, appointments to boards. We have a couple of reappointments here.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Charlie Graham to the Recreation Board as a primary member with a term ending 10/1/19, and David Vigliotti to the Sampson's Island Working Board as a primary member with a term ending 10/1/19.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Osmer. Further discussion? Hearing none, Lenore?
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 16, approval of the unapproved minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the
As-
regular council meeting from August 17th, 2016 as submitted.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilman Osmer, second by Councilman Montanaro. Further discussion from council? Hearing none, Lenore?
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Is there any further business before council? Hearing none, everybody, thank you very much. Staff, thank you for your hard work on everything. We appreciate it very much. And at this time, meeting's adjourned.